All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I'm Rob McConnell, coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the CanCom Broadcast Network and your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ AM, streaming us at classic1220.ca. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, and on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. Exonation, my guest this hour is Dr. Richard Allen Miller. His website is richardallenmiller.com, and that's Allen with one L. Richard is a very unique person, and Richard, for all the people who may not know who Richard Allen Miller is, who is he?
Good question. I wear many hats. I have a doctorate in physics. Makes that 2 doctorates in physics, one from MIT, and I have a tenure in anesthesiology, University of Washington. I've worked, the first job I did when I came out of grad school was Boeing. I worked on Lunar Base Alpha 1, growing pot on the moon. You can find that article in High Times. That was back in 1968. I worked for Art Pilgrim. I was dating his daughter, Vicky, and at Boeing, and that later became the Space Center and BSRO, or Boeing Scientific Research Laboratories. Then Boeing laid off 30,000 PhDs in one day when they lost the B-1 contract. I was dropped from grade 12 down to GS10, and I didn't want to work, they kept me. I was that good, but I quit and went to work in anesthesiology. Jerry Pollack was my lead. He had not written his work on structured water yet, but what I did, they brought me in, and this give you a typical example. They were 2 years behind in a 5-year grant to build the aortic catheter, the single most important measurement in man. It goes in through the femoral artery, goes up into the aortic arch. And what I did is I put 8 28 megahertz crystals that did pulse echo off the aortic wall and a Doppler transducer at 10 megahertz that did blood flow. And the product of the two, blood flow times aortic cross-section, is how the anesthesiologist takes you down near zero so you don't go into shock when they do weird surgery. Because I did that in 1 year.
Wow.
They were already 2 years behind, and I did it in 1 year, and I grew the crystals, soldered them on that thing, and got them ready so they could murder dogs with them. And that's what they do when they test new equipment. They work with dogs first. And now it's really important, but because I had tenure, I had to do OR. Oh, God, I wasn't ready for that one at all. And that was in 1970. And the first surgery I had was brain surgery, where they took a Black & Decker drill and they drilled 4 holes in the guy's forehead, put wire through there so they could cut it from the inside out, flip the bone plate over so they could do the surgery. And it grossed me out. And so I quit, even though I had tenure and all of that, in 1 year. And what they did is they kept me on, and I started the first job I did then, working in the University of Washington and anesthesiology, 4th floor. I did SEAL Corp out of Amherst. And basically what I did was that I gave 8 altered states of consciousness to the SEAL program, and it turned them into supermen. Imagine what man could become if he had access to 200 altered states. I'll give you examples if you want them.
Yes, please.
From there, then, go ahead.
Yeah, yes, please. I'd love to hear the examples.
Okay. Then immediately, the Pentagon wanted me to work under Dr. Carl Schleicher. He was a Nazi like von Braun, except he was the one that did everything von Braun couldn't do. And that's where I got into paranormal studies for the military. I was Northwest Regional Director of MRU on the West Coast. And just based on that, I have a whole bunch of books that I'm going to be coming out with on all the work I did at Spook Central. That's what I called it. And yeah, well, just giving you a typical example, we have an anomaly here in Oregon called the Oregon Vortex.
Yes,
and
I've heard of it.
I flew over it in a PB Wyatt, 15,000 feet with an interferometer. What bends light at 15,000 feet? A mini black hole. And I'm going to suggest that all the different anomalies on Earth, the ley lines and the Bermuda Triangle, etc., are a series of mini black holes in a sacred geometry, something I discovered in 74 with biofeedback equipment, adding video feedback, and that's when I discovered cymatics. In the second book on that series, that's a diamond body that's out now. The second book will be Electromagic, where I took Mora and Intimate German acupuncture equipment and broke a code on the forehead and discovered it was your immune system's response, not the drug, that got you high. And I did that in 1979. Then I went and took both of those, the cymatics and how to release specific neurotransmitters, and I created my first wormhole, which will be a book called Yogatronics, where I took 12 NASA scientists to Mars in 1983. Now, with that said, who am I? I have no idea, because I immediately quit in 79 and moved to Oregon and became interested in agriculture. And Henry Barth, the 5th richest man in the world, flew all the way over from Nuremberg, hired me on the spot, and gave me 28 farms in 4 states to grow alternative ag, because that's what I did. I processed. My last name isn't Miller for nothing. I had herb companies, not just bookstores, and delis throughout Seattle. There were a group of us that grew up on Queen Anne Hill, and a bunch of loady-toed hippies, and one of the Forrest Roth Schomer, who was my roommate at the time in Growing Family, helped set up the Pioneer Square and the Pike Street Market, and I had a huge metaphysical bookstore down on the Ave, the UW, and then the big processing plant up on 8th Street, and then down on the docks I had warehousing, where I brought crops in and then knock them down into cut and sift of some form, make tea out of it or whatever. And when I moved down here to Oregon, I went into agriculture, started a newsletter, which is now a 9-volume encyclopedia on alternative ag. And Conrad Richter, I wrote for Acres, I had my own column, and Conrad would say I'm probably the most knowledgeable man in the world, possibly historically, in terms of my take on alternative crops. These are non-storable commodities. And to give you an example of what I was doing, in 2010, I took 150 truckloads of ponderosa pine cone out of Lapine and Sisters, Oregon, which were a fire hazard, dipped them in oil, and sold them to the East Coast as kindling. What color would you like your fire starter on? That was $10,000 a day in labor for 8 months.
Unreal.
Yeah, that's what I did. And then I got into metaphysics and the occult, magic and the occult. I call physics and metaphysics because I taught online out of Humboldt IES when we changed PC Link into AOL. And what I did there, by the way, I did radio a long time ago also, KMPX out of San Francisco. And this is Alan Richards broadcasting at 800 micrograms, somewhere up on the redwoods up on Venus, leaving no left turns unstoned. Left stones. Oh, I know. It was an introduction to the Rolling Stones. That was the first underground radio that started. I did that early on. Worked KTAC out of Tacoma, down near American Lake. I remember when I was down there, I was going to promote scuba diving because that's how I got involved with SEALs. And I was now A-rated. And we were in American Lake. And my first dive was 100 feet for 4 hours, which means I had to decompress for 3 days. It was a world record. That's what I always seem to do is whenever I do something, I throw myself against the wall. But no matter how good I was playing with Arthur Ashe in Wimbledon, I was his double partner. He was a better tennis player. There was always, no matter what I did, there was someone better. Kept me honest. But I was a real competitor. Athletics. I boxed when I came to the United States in 3rd grade. I worked under John Leong out of Chinatown, and he had 3 other students. There was Bruce Lee, Skip Ellsworth, Fred Williams, and May. I'll be your John Saxon guy. And then when I finished that, Tonte Chung came all the way down from Victoria and taught me double yang style Tai Chi. And that was one of the things altered states I gave to the SEAL program, was when you're swimming, you can change your perception of time when you're floating on your back and listening to your breathing. And
Richard, we've got to take a break. Please stand by. Exonation, Dr. Richard Miller is our special guest this hour. www.richardallenmiller.com. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. We're coming to you on the CanCom Broadcast Network and your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM, streaming us at Classic 1210. I'm sorry, I did it again. Classic1220.ca.
With open arms and a heart so wide, she stood by me by every side. From Cambly's lanes to Heaven's Hall, she was a guardian angel to all. Raised in old Cambly. Crawl through the dead oak leaves, candles flicker in the graveyard's bread, calling spirits back from death. The witches are awake tonight, dancing around the firelight. Spells are cast, the veil is thin. Let the wicked feast begin. Screams will echo through the sky. You hear the laugh before you die. Run if you dare, make no mistake. The witches are awake. Cats hiss on a cobblestone lane. The wind moans soft, it whispers your name. Eyes in the darkest shadows grin.
And welcome back, everyone. By the way, the music that we play here on the X Zone is available at rammusic.ca. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is our guest this hour. www.richardallenmiller.com. Richard, you and I were talking before we went to air tonight, and you were telling me that you believe the grid is going down.
I know that it is. Not that I believe that it is. I know that it is.
All right.
And I don't know whether it's going to be an accident or with intent. You can count on it. And most people are saying July 4th. I have in my notes July 23rd. Well, stay tuned. See what happens.
What is going? Why do you have this knowing that the grid is going to be going down? How did you come to this conclusion?
Yeah, I know. I don't really know. I have real good intuition. I've always trusted my gut, and I can smell it. If you your music, for example, I have an eidetic memory, which means I don't hear music, I see it, and synesthesia, and so that's one of the reasons the military used me. My IQ is beyond anything, and I'm a polymath. That's what I do, mathematics. And I did a paper back in 1972 that when I presented it at Claremont, they came in and classified it top secret. And it, even as of today, it has not been released as declassified. And that's extremely rare because we're talking about from 72 when I presented it at Claremont. It was called embryonic holography, and it basically, we rewrote that, and I published it before anybody knew that, so they couldn't take it out. And it was done from memory, so it may not be the original paper, but it's in a bunch of journals now, and 2 Russians quoted from it this last year, biologists, and my mentor, Dr. Stanley Krippner, thinks I may go to Stockholm this year. I don't know yet. Stay tuned. I don't know how to do that. Stockholm 2-step. I only Argentine tango. You know what I mean? And well, I don't know. If I do, trust me when I tell you, my purpose right now. Look at how many books I've written. My purpose now is to complete 147 unfinished manuscripts on work I did with Buckminster Fuller, work I did with Boeing, whatever. And how we went to Mars, we never made it to the surface. It is not astral projection and remote viewing. And why? The other third, I'm going around in circles. So I have 3 hats: physics and metaphysics, alternative agriculture. I was one of the largest exporters out of Thunder Bay, and magic and the occult. And the reason I am interested in magic is that when something's occluded, I want to know why. And that's as a physicist. And what I discovered is that consciousness is a dream state. We're in a dream, and right now, you and I are sharing a dream with a bunch of people listening right now. That's a very rare type of dream, but it's happening. And each one of those, from the time I couldn't get on this internet to the one where I am right now with you, rather than at 11 o'clock, it was 11:40, they all happened. And the new math I'm writing on this DNA as a resonant cavity oscillator is basically, I'm going to use a virtual form of knot theory, where I take string theory, which is 10 dimensions. I'm adding an 11th superstring, which interconnects to 10 as a wormhole. And then I'm going to be a little Boy Scout, tie knots in them. I'm going to use a virtual form of Kaufman's knot theory. I'm going to make sure that the hangman's knot has at least 13 turns so it snaps that neck. Just kidding. I don't know quite what I am, but my teachers in magic, Grady McMurtry was the OTO lodge master until he died. And when he died, they offered the caliphate to me because I am Order of the Silver Star or Geom Argentum, and I helped write In the Continuum. And In the Continuum had articles from Crowley and other people from Golden Dawn and other places that are unpublished. It's an interlodge working, and Phyllis Seckler, who was Grady's wife at the time, Mildred Burlingame and Helen Parsons Smith were my teachers. They were out of Agape Lodge of North Hollywood back in way back, 1948, I think it was. And they were my teachers, and I got it really good. And then I taught it online with IES through Humboldt University. And that's the metaphysical courses I taught were 8 weeks each. I did 15 courses over 11 years, and they were accredited at Harvard and other universities across the country. Today, you would call that texting. We didn't even have video, audio. What we had was texting. And I taught online, and those metaphysical courses are really well done, even way back when I did them, because and then what we did is translate them, from audio into.
Sure.
Yeah. The singularity, the problem that's happening now, there's a journal out called Futurism, and it is depicting all the different problems that are coming out now because of AIs and the billions of dollars being spent. And you saw what I sent you. I mean, if you got what I sent you, I had, I was going to talk about near-death experiences and then what happens at the moment of death, because consciousness is a dream state. My physics does not rule in this universe. What rules in this universe is imagination. Anything that you can conceptualize as being possibly real is not only real, it's even more than that. And that's because we're sugar ants in Gaia's kitchen.
You know what I believe, Richard? I believe that you cannot dream anything that you have not seen or done. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's backwards forwards, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have seen it if I hadn't have believed it.
Exactly.
Exactly. And that is why there'll never be a theory of everything. Simon says we can go halfway to the door. We can get close, but I don't think I'm going to ever get that cigar. And I know that I don't know. That's the part that makes it weird, because I'm as good as it gets, have a eidetic memory, and I can't get there from here. And now I've got weird things happening to me, and I think the only reason I'm still alive is I'm probably still an asset. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not in communication with, I have friends from the Pentagon that I worked with that are retired now. Most everyone I worked with, though, is dead. Mm-hmm. I worked there under Nixon. I actually had to go into his office once a week. That was creepy. He was smart, but what happens when you get to that level of power is the audacity of thinking you're above the law. And Trump is an embarrassment. Not only are we going to enjoy higher gas prices, he tried to rip off $1.8 billion on a budget thing, trying to take it out of there. They caught him. But I know I don't know what's going on, and I don't have a clue about politics. I chose to be a nerd. Let
me ask you something, Richard. Because you are a nerd, I would rather say that you are a very intelligent person. In all aspects, you've always underestimated yourself, or you've always given yourself a low key. When you look at what is happening in the Middle East with Lebanon, with Iran,
that's crazy.
What in your opinion? What is the main objective that the United States is trying to accomplish?
Well, newsflash, it isn't the U.S. per se, because I don't know anybody that's for Trump. Now, how come he's still in office? And at one point, he was talking about continuing for a third term. How does that work? And, well, no, thank God he's still. But I can tell you that I didn't vote for Trump. I voted against Biden when we had the elections. We haven't had a true statesman in our capital since Harry Truman. And that's a fact. I remember when Kennedy was president and Marilyn Monroe got on national radio, TV, happy birthday, Mr. President. You know, that was, wow, yeah, good God.
Happy birthday, Mr. President.
Yeah, I was crazy. And, you know, who knows what's going on?
Yeah.
Right now, I can tell you how these so-called evil lodges that they talk about, that, you know, basically, because you're in a dream state, it's emotions that put psyche into matter. And IQ is not intelligence. I have a high IQ. Mine is adaptability. EQ, emotional, is where the real intelligence. I did one tour at Groom Lake, met Krill, and I can tell you 20 minutes of dialogue with her is like a lifetime of words. Then we don't even have a clue what EQ is. When women come, you know, sort of, kind of maybe, but we're all, anything that you could imagine is kinky, from little boys and little girls to is with sex and other kinds of naughty. Well, guess what? That's how you make something real. And the greater the group, the power of synergy, as synergistically, the power of the group is greater than the sum of the individual parts. And you put those two things together, and all of a sudden you have creepy lodges.
All right, stand by. We've got to take another break here. Richard Allen Miller is our special guest. His website, www.richardallenmiller.com. This is the X Zone. I'm Rob McConnell, and you're listening to us on the CanCom Broadcast Network and your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM, right here in St. Catharines. You also stream us at classic1220.ca.
Let the wicked feast begin. Screams will echo through the sky. You hear them laugh before you die. Run if you dare, make no mistake. The witches are awake. Black cats hiss on a cobblestone lane. They say Mandela died in prison back in 1983. Yet history books keep telling us he lived to set men free. How could millions all remember a world that never was? That single strange collective memory started all the buzz. Now people talk of timelines, worlds colliding in the night, tiny cracks in human memory or dimensions out of sight. From children's books to movie lines and logos rearranged, something in the fabric feels familiar yet has changed. We're shifting through the cracks tonight, searching for what's real, trying to understand the things our memories still feel. Are we living parallel lives in worlds just out of phase? Or is the human mind rewriting yesterday's old days? Some say CERN has opened.
Dr. Richard Allen Miller's our special guest. And Rich, what is your take on the Mandela effect?
Yeah, I love your music. You're good.
Thank you, buddy.
No, I mean, really, I don't hear music. I did 20 years at the Brit as a volunteer. That's the nicest gift I ever gave myself. But your music, feel free when you have a moment, tell me what you played. The first one that you opened with, is that the same woman that was singing right now?
Yes.
Excellent. I would like to know who she is at some point. Thank you.
It'll be my pleasure.
Well, I love, advanced music. Music is like a code. And, you can I love jazz, and you can tell the difference between Chicago. I call it Chicago, not Chicago. Chicago and Washington, D.C., and New Orleans, they're all different.
Oh, big time, yeah.
But they have that seventh, and, some of the, oh, man, I just, when they do Discord with intent, Jimi Hendrix was my age. I knew him in high school. And when he came out in Monterey in 1967, the Byrds had done 8 Miles High. Everybody was zoned out.
Yes.
Yeah. And then Hendrix came out and he played Rainy Days in Seattle. And let me tell you, even my cousin, Steve Miller, isn't like that. Hendrix, nobody's been like him. His way of doing it was so unique. And I know music really well. I mean, never mind. I got a story I'll tell you off camera. But newsflash, your music is what I need right now, because I need to listen more and go internal more. And I'm not being allowed to do that. Where I can just relax and enjoy the moment.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you a CD of our music.
Thank you. I
It'll be
love
my
it. Yeah. And not to be outdone, you tell me what you want and exchange it. Be my honor to give you something I've written. That ESP book I did was when I was at Mission Control in 71 with Ed Mitchell. And when he went around the moon, so we had thickness between it to see if it, the signal blocked, etc. I made a discovery. It's an altered state, very easily gotten to with hypnosis. And Duke University tested me on it. And they brought in Sybil Leek, Gene Dixon, and the usual suspects. And I won it by 3 orders of magnitude. And I'm not psychic. I work and trust with my gut, but, I'm asleep like all the rest of us. And when you use hypnosis, self-hypnosis, you go to the space. Your ability in guessing is 400 times where you are right now. And that was another protocol I gave the SEAL program, because they can do body language, NLP, Bangler and Spangler, expressions, the way it might say something. So much more is communicated than just the audio part of a story. Having my facial expressions, Richard, slow down. I get it. I need a break, and I haven't had one for a long time because of who I am and what I'm doing right now. The grid and what's about to happen. Every 12,000 years, the magnetic fields of Earth change. And what happens is when they start spinning in the opposite direction, it takes lava and it throws it to the surface. And that's why we have all the earthquakes we're having and the volcanoes going off across the world. And at some point, it's going to be real bad. And what I can give to your audience is, if you can produce 40% of the food you consume in your own garden or local area, you have a fair chance of survival, because a zombie will be a high school kid that's out of food and he can't use his AI.
How dangerous do you think AI is to humanity?
I think that, number one, it should never have been allowed with children any more than drugs, sex, rock and roll, or alcohol. Right off the gate. The kids in high school right now can't even do mathematics that they teach in secondary schools, junior high. How's that work? Because they have an AI to do the work for them. And now we're finding that they lie, they cheat, they rock and roll, and they play jokes. It goes downhill from there.
So, in your opinion, why was AI released so early? Why wasn't it kept and sent
because
through
they
more?
think they can make more money. Money changes everything, Cyndi Lauper. And I'm a materialistic girl.
I've heard that about you.
Well, good luck with that. Well, I mean, I know I don't know, but you can't trade gold when you can't eat it.
'Tis true, oh mighty one.
And, the things that are happening in America are not me. They're not my friends. So who is taking charge of that? Well, the Nexus magazine, I used to write for them and so on, Coevolutionary Journal. There are things going on in this world that I do not understand. For example, disclosure. How come we don't know what's going on down in Antarctica? I went to Antarctica in 1974. I was the physicist in charge of light. That's where I discovered bioluminescence, because that's how the light worked in that cavern. We went in through Thule Island and up in a submarine, and the cavern was a mile high, and it was lit up. How does that work? I was the physicist. It was a bacteria that was eating the stuff off the wall and creating a light, bioluminescing. There was a Viking. I saw the Nazi base there. There was 19 slips. Looked like it had been nuked by maybe John Kennedy. I don't know. And then further down was a Viking base from 14th century. Where's that in the history books? And further down was a hole that went straight down 100 miles into the mantle. And in 1974, we didn't have drones that could go up and down, 100 miles. And I'm telling you, what happened next was that one of my astronaut friends, I know all the astronauts because of what I did, called. He was part of a group that went down that cavern, that hole. And that's when they quarantined the island because, quote, something woke up. He didn't know what it was. I'm guessing it might have been Nephilim. I don't know. I know that I'll never probably really know because it doesn't work like that. Like any other dream, you kind of catch in the middle of it, sort of. Now, one of the things I can recommend your students do, listeners, is to keep a diary. I call mine my magical memory because when I go back to things I wrote in 1971, that's when I started writing diaries. When you go back and read it, it's like time travel. That's how you go back in the past. You're right back in that same moment when you wrote it. And it gives you access to yourself and memories that you may have forgotten. Further, that's called honest journaling by Ira Progoff. The second thing is all your saints, fifth plane mystics, have stressed the importance of training the mind, meditation. I started with Ananda Marga and I ended up with Satmat, Santmat. I was going to Tibet through India, and then I was up in upstate New India, a place called Bias, and I met Sharon Singh. And Satmat means Path of the Masters. It's about 400 years old. It starts at the third eye, and what you're doing is basically training the mind so that you can do visualizations, because what a wormhole is, what I created, is kind of like a white hole, black hole. It's not astral projection and remote viewing. Astral projection is inside the circle, and remote viewing is outside the circle. That would be like a shaman that would place his consciousness in the eye of an eagle and sees what the eagle sees. He's outside the circle, something's looking back at him. Now, when he's inside the circle, he has an astral cord. Now, wormholes are more like white holes and black holes because it's easier to go to Alpha Centauri than it would be to go to my closet next door. In other words, it's easier to go further away, and the closer you get is more difficult. And now NASA has discovered the same geometry I use on Saturn, the North Pole. And that means our solar system is a life form. And if you don't think NASA doesn't want to know where that wormhole goes now, I'm not kidding. That you don't hear about this in the news, but this is the bottom line on it. And I've written about that in my Diamond Body. And when I get into electromagic, I can give you all the geometries you vision to release what neurotransmitter. My original purpose was to get high. That, okay, I want to do dimethyltryptamine, 5-alpha, whatever. And when you do these visualizations, they're not simple. They're not stargates. They're wormholes. A wormhole is like a fictitious stargate geometry that, instead of going into itself, rotates in its formation. And that takes a lot of training in your mind's eye to be able to do that. When you can do that, guess what? You can go anywhere you want to. It's another form of travel, because physical plane, force space.
Richard, if we're living a dream,
I wished. Yeah.
If this is the dream world that we're in, why do we need to be responsible for rent, mortgages, banks?
Okay, because sex magic goes like this. The thought that occurs at the moment of climax happens. That's emotional EQ. And that's why I would say man has a responsibility for the thoughts he chooses to entertain. You're creating your own dream. And sometimes there's something outside. And that's when I draw my line. If I'm doing my own thing, that's my new book on tarot. It's not about fortune telling. I studied with James Hillman.
Richard, stand by, my friend. I got so carried away in our conversation that I've got a few seconds to go to the break. So this is the X Zone. I'm Rob McConnell. Richard Allen Miller and I will be back as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And you're listening to us on the CanCom Broadcast Network and your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ.
A world. Shuffle the deck in the candlelight, whispers dancing through the night. 78 windows, secrets unfold, stories of fire, water, air, and gold. The fool takes a step where the road is unknown. The magician says you're never alone. The high priestess smiles with a mystery deep, guarding the truth that the shadows keep. Cards on the table, fate in the air, turning the symbols, finding what's there. Past, present, future written in art. Tarot cards speak to the soul and the heart. Cards on the table, lanterns that glow, showing the path where the brave spirits go.
And welcome back, everyone. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is our guest this hour. His website is www.richardallenmiller.com, and Allen has one L in it. First of all, Rich, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Always a great pleasure talking to you. You're going to be talking, I believe, near Mount Shasta or Mount Hood in the next couple of months?
Yeah, I'll be their keynote speaker wrapping up the 3 days in Mount Shasta in August, late August, 28, 29. It's on my website. There's a big list of who all the speakers are. The book on tarot is not about fortune telling. I'm going to suggest there are 22 stories in the big city. Persephone having to go to hell each year would be a kid taking drugs once a year because he's depressed at Christmas. Now, you and I probably have 5 or 6 primary archetypes working in us uniquely, and if each one has an ending. And if you don't like the ending, that's when you change the movie by doing ritual as a celebration of myth. You change the archetype. And it's a different way of looking at, like magic with a C is hairy in your pocket. It's sleight of hand. You're watching one hand while the other's doing something else. Magic with a K is sleight of mind, where you use your belief system as a tool to accomplish your purpose. Your belief systems change all the time. They're arbitrary. Really, they are. You say, but they change when you were a little kid. They're going to continue to change as you get older. So really, because it's arbitrary like that. That means it could be a tool to accomplish your purpose. Like, I give you an example. I had a little girl die in my arms of leukemia when she was 15. That's why I'm broke. Well, it happened. But who do I love more? I loved my mom more than I did the little girl dying. But what I did is I reached in with my brain driver, changed my beliefs. That was stuff I did with what's his face out of Berkeley. And what I did was made her more important than my mother during her moment of death. And it gave her a good send away. And then I changed it back again because my mom, she died early, but she had out of Seattle, they owned the 4th and Pike building at that time. And Mom had Vesta Cutting and Associates, which was a spy network, industrial spy, where she placed executive vice president secretaries. Only they didn't work for Boeing or Battelle. They worked for my mom. And my dad was, he was a technician at Boeing. He's his stepdad. And he was the best thing that ever happened to me because instead of being just a physicist, what I am is a jack of all trades. There isn't anything I can't do. But kept me honest was that there was always somebody local that did it better. For example, I went to Tate in 2 sports. And in one sport, low hurdles, I broke a world record and didn't even place. I came in 6th. That was when Charlie Green ran a 100-yard dash at 9.8, and I did 10 flat.
So, Richard, when you see the big picture of the world today, how do you see it in the future? What's it going to be like?
I am uncertain how to respond to that. We're going to go back to a Stone Age, approximately, pretty much like we did this last 5 epochs that I did the study on. Mm-hmm. This is the 6th epoch, and the 7th epoch is supposed to be different biblically. Stay tuned on that. I don't know. And I wasn't there when the last one happened 12,000 years ago. We originally thought, when I did that study in 1974 at the Pentagon, I had a 3 sigma error coefficient on that. That means it's going to happen, period. And all the planets have now changed except Mercury, including Earth now, and even the sun is rotating. That's why it's throwing all that lava or dark matter out at Earth right now. And all of that's going to have an effect. Did you know that 3-Eye Atlas, it's in the media now, was actually, they don't think it was an artificial body coming in from outer space. However, what it did do is dropped a whole bunch of new life forms. And you remember all the debris that it was leaving?
Yeah.
It turns out that's how they start life in the solar system. And that's what you'll find that in Scientific American, latest issue. Now, with all of that said, we don't have a clue. And really, while I'm real good at what I do, I know I don't know what I'm doing. I'm straight up on that. It's like the difference between knowledge and wisdom is the difference between learning something and studying it. When you study something, you do the same thing I'm doing, but you're doing it uniquely different because of your way of doing things. And that's what makes it turn from knowledge, which Castaneda called illusion, into wisdom. And personally, I think our children are the single most important natural resource we have, even over tires, iron, whatever, gold, oil.
I agree.
And why would we want to send them to school to become us? And with that said, I was gifted, and I saw what they did to me in school. Ricky's very disruptive. He asked too many questions. That was my 3rd grade. 4th grade, they discovered I didn't read English because I came in and did Mandarin, 1, Palau, and Tagalog. and form of Spanish. And I grew up in the Philippines and Shaolin Temple and Northern Shaolin. And when I came to the United States, my dad put me in John Leong's studio and taught me, and also tap dancing and ballroom dancing and all right. I used to teach House of Leon. And Bruce Lee was very good. He was very fast. I was heavier. I boxed on the U.S. team 1 year. I was world champion with double sword. You give me two swords and you can't take me with a bow. And but somebody could always beat me up. I won my match in Peking, but the only reason I won that match was I took the referee out as when I was going into the ring. I wasn't going to fight two people. And that caused a little stir.
I guess it
Dukes
would.
Dukes was possibly the best kickboxer I've ever seen. He had a form of savate, but his precision and weight, I don't think there'll ever be anyone like him. Yeah. When I saw him box, he was the bottom line. He was like 4 weights above me. I boxed at 178. Yeah. And so, and weight makes the difference. Trust me. You know.
Earlier in the show, you were talking about how people should prepare for the days to come by, planting and growing their own food. But if this is a world of dreams that we're living, why do we need food?
Well, they're just now breaking Sumerian tablet translations, and they talk about this moment in the old Sumerian tablets. It's interesting. You'll find that in my daily conspiracy newsletter I put out every day now. And the Sumerian, I have about 40 to 60 links each day of newscasts like you and me. So there's something in there for everyone. And you'll find that on my website. And I am reading these Sumerian tablets. They're talking about what happens after death and why you want to avoid the tunnel of light and why you don't want to reincarnate. You want to evolve. Now, I'm going to say something else that's really important. Anything with a face, 2 arms, and 2 legs is a carbon-based life form. And time is not real. So what does that mean? Our future. It's an interesting realization that you and I will probably never really understand what time and space is. That's why there's an uncertainty principle in it. The more you know about one aspect, the less you know about the other. You can't get there from here. And that's why I came up with the holographic unit, because it used information and rather than time and space, and it used the resolution on how information collapses down into itself and out of itself. However, there's a theorem in information theory that states, quote, if you have enough information to ask a coherent question, you have enough information to answer it. The answer is contained in the structure of the question. And so that's why, and we know now that fractal math is generators, like Mendelbrot, Julia, and May, but they're uniquely distinct, which means, what is the proton cloud? The proton cloud is, in biology, is the space between when a proton goes from being a particle into a wave. And that's where all the different choices you made, which made you God's favored, that's where they are. And, there are decisions in that if I had not been able to get on tonight, for example, then how would the world be different from hearing what I had to say this moment and what it caused you and your listeners and others to do that changed what happened in our future?
Richard, you and I must say so long for tonight, my friend. I always look forward to having you on the show. Take care of yourself, and I look forward to the next time you and I meet back here in the X Zone.
I'd like that too. You bet.
Take care of yourself, my friend. X Zone Nation, my guest this hour has been Dr. Richard Allen Miller. His website is richardallenmiller.com. That's Allen with 1 L. Well, that's it for tonight, Exonation. I'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And we come to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight, right here on the CanCom Broadcast Network and your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM, and they stream us at classic1220.ca. So until tomorrow night, my friends, take care of each other and always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.
The path where the brave spirits go.